and use an XSL style sheet to display that page, you're going to lose lots of marks. This is a data file. It should never be directly visible on the internet. That's why I put it inside the webinf directory, because it is hidden from the internet. The only way to view something is to go through a JSP page. And the JSP page is going to display the data, but currently the data is all fake. It's all fake. So now we're going to fix that. We're going to create some JAXB annotated class to map onto the XML data. So I'm going to create a new Java class called book, and the package is com.ryanheiss.books. Actually, I've already got one. I can import this. Let's go and import, because I've done this in a previous week, haven't I? Browse, home, workspace, WTP. Oh no, it's already here. What I can do is I can copy and paste from within Eclipse. So these two classes, this whole package in fact, I'm going to copy that package and paste it over here. And I'm going to delete the book test class. I don't need that one. So do you remember these guys? I've already created a book class with JAXB annotations, yeah? I don't need to do that again. You remember how that works. And notice that it has an ID attribute. Let's just verify that all of the XML attributes match up to the data file. So book has an ID attribute, correct. It has a title, which is an XML element, correct? Although that's the default. You don't have to say XML element. If you don't, it's assumed that that's going to be an XML element, right? In fact, title, author, and there's also one for synopsis. So let's add that in there, and then we've got price and stock. Good? So we just had to add one. Now, we've got to go through everywhere and add that. So there's going to be another constructor parameter for the synopsis. And then we're going to go, that's after author. This dot synopsis equals synopsis. And then we're going to have to generate get and set methods for that after author. So after author, let's go to source and generate getters and setters for synopsis right here. So now we have the getter and setter for synopsis. So now the book class is done, and the bookshop class, let's just check if this one maps onto the correct XML structure. The bookshop is a root element named shop, correct? And it has two children, a name, which is an XML element, and a list of books, which is called, oh, this one's going to have a wrapper element now, isn't it? So we've got to change this one. We're going to have an XML element wrapper. Okay, and that's our wrapper element. And then the name of each element in the list is called book. Okay, so does that structure look like it maps on correctly? Now, next we're going to create, I think we're done with this one. We've created the JAXB annotated classes to map onto the XML data. Done. Now we're going to create a bean responsible for loading and saving the data. That's the unmarshalling and marshalling. So let's do that. So over in here, right-click and create a new class. And this is kind of like the diary app bean. I'm going to call it book app, book application. Now, have you learnt about design patterns in this subject yet or not yet? Not yet, okay. After the holidays, you're going to learn about a design pattern called the data access object, and you should use that when you get to that stage. Since you haven't learnt it yet, I'm not going to use it yet. So I'll just create a bean called book application, which is similar to diary application. So we're going to load a file from this file path and unmarshal it and read it into a Java object called shop. We're going to have to, what's my name, the class name is actually called bookshop. And now we're going to generate the getters and setters. So source, generate getters and setters for everything, okay? And when you set the file path, at that moment, when we know where the file is, I think we should load the file. We should load the contents of the file, unmarshal it into this Java object. So the final goal of this method would be to actually store something into there, wouldn't it? Yeah? We want to read the file from here, and the goal is to store something into there. Now, to do that, we're going to go to the JAX-B lab and look at the boilerplate code for unmarshalling. Copy that and paste it here. And all of these classes we need to, if we go Alt, Enter, no, I thought Alt, Enter was supposed to, oh no, that's a different program, this one, okay. So we need to import these, import them all in one go, like that. We need to import this. We need to throw exceptions. And another exception here. And what do you know, the example that I copied and pasted from just happened to be called Bookshop. So normally you would have to rename that to your root class, wouldn't you? Yeah? So that's it for unmarshalling. That is step 4 complete. And what's step 5? Go back to your fake website, and now we're going to load the real data from your data access layer. So we're going back to our JSP page here, where we've got fake data, and now we're going to load real data from the JSP page. So how do you do that? Well, we want to use this bean that we've just created, this book application bean, which is not a valid bean, is it? Because it doesn't implement serializable. Now, let's implement the right interface. Now it's a bean. And we want to use that bean on this page. So let's do that. How about right here, I'm going to do a JSP use bean. Now, what we'll do is copy and paste that code from the tutorial notes. So we're going to use that bean. Now, the file path to the file that we want to load from is going to be called shop.xml, and the class name of the bean is going to be com.ryanheist.bookshop.bookapplication, and then I'm going to name this bean book app, and the scope, I'll leave everything else the same, and I'll call this book app. So that's going to use that bean. Now, the bean, let's go back to the bean here and think ahead. The purpose of this bean is to provide access to the data. You should use this bean here to display the data on your page, and you should use the same bean in your REST web service when you want to display the data not in HTML format but to some computer client. But you would want to use the same bean here in your REST web service too. And thinking ahead, what kinds of ways would we like to get access to the data? Well, there are a few things that we would like to do here. Let me just say here, one thing that I'd like to be able to do is get a list of books. That would be useful, wouldn't it, on my website? Because on at least one of the pages I'd like to get a list of books and display them. Let's import that class. So that's one thing I'd like to be able to do. And another thing I'd like to be able to do is to actually get a particular book by ID. And on at least one of my pages, I'd like to be able to do that. So let's go back to our page here. So on this page, I think that in order to display that data, this method would be very useful, wouldn't it? To get all of the books. And when I click on a book, to display the details for a particular book, this is book 0, then this method would be very useful, wouldn't it? Yeah? Now currently what happens is, I'll just show you, if I click on the weapon makers, what's going to happen? It gives me Harry Potter every time, right? Because I gave it fake data, yeah? So if you present this to your client, tell them, okay, just click on Harry Potter. Okay. So there, it works, all right. So we're going to fix that now. So we need these two methods. We're thinking ahead, and in your website for your assignment, you want to get the reviews, and you may want to get a particular review, and you may want to actually add a new review. So you may need another method to add a new review as well, right? You think about all of the things that you need, and you add a method for each useful way that you want to access the data here. So, how would GetBooks work? Well, in this bean, I've already loaded the whole bookshop here, right? And so what I could do is, I could actually just return the books that are inside the shop. Hang on, I clicked insert accidentally. Get books, because there's a get books method inside of the shop. And for get book, what I could do is actually call the other method, get books, and I can actually loop over them. In fact, I'll do a for loop. For each book in the list of books, if the ID of that book is equal to the ID I'm searching for, that's the book I want to return. And if I didn't find anything, return null. You've seen this code plenty of times in the lecture notes, and you can copy and paste that algorithm too, right? You've seen it in the REST web service week in particular, so you know where to get that code from.
And we see it in the apps as well.
Yes. So there's the two methods I need, and you may need more methods for your assignment. So now that we've got those two methods, I'm going to go back to my index page, and here is the bean that I'm using. Now, right here, I actually want to insert real data. Now to do that, this is in a JSP page, I can write less than %equals and insert some actual data with Java, can't I? Now I'm going to use the book app bean, and there is a get shop method, and in the shop there is a get name method. So this will insert the actual name of that bookshop. How's that? This is the final step. Now, for the book list, can you see this is all fake data? I want to get the actual list of books here, and maybe I should do a loop, right? So what I want to do here is, at this point, I'm going to do a loop. For each book in, now where do I get the list of books from? From my book bean, and there is a method called getBooks, the method that I just created, getBooks. I'm going to call that method, and I'm going to loop over all of the books one by one, and then I don't need all of these 3 books. I'm going to delete 2 of them, and I'm going to loop like this. And each time through the loop, I'm just going to display 1 book. Do you understand that? Now currently I'm still displaying Harry Potter, but do you agree that this loop will actually loop 3 times? Because the actual number of books in the data file should be 3. Let's just test if that worked. Why couldn't we run that? We've got to import that class, don't we? So let's go back to here and add an import. There we go. I'm going to reload this, and so if I reload it, we'll actually see Harry Potter 3 times. Or we'll see everything blow up in our face, because it's the first time. Oh, there we go, it didn't crash. That's surprising. I always feel really nervous when it doesn't crash. I prefer it to crash on the first time I run it, because then it tells you an error message and it tells you what's wrong. If it doesn't give you any error message, I just know there's something wrong, but now I'll have no chance of figuring out what it is. I love error messages. Error messages are good. Now, does that make sense? It's displaying Harry Potter 3 times, because I just hard-coded it. But the loop's working, isn't it? That proves that it figured out that there were 3 books and it looped 3 times. Now what I'm going to do is each time through that loop, I'm going to take the current book and display it here, the details. So for the ID, 0, I'm actually going to insert a Java expression with an equals expression, and I'm going to get the ID out of that book. That'll give me a 0 or a 1 or a 2. Make sense? This is all explained on the XSL Assignment 2 preparation page. Look at this. Very similar code to what I'm just showing you here. Now, for the title, I want to actually display the actual title of this book. So tell me, what should I write here? Less than % equals. Now what? Book.get title. Good. Now, next. Author.
Less than percentage.
And then price. Tell me what to type. Everything. Less than.
Percentage.
Now what? Percent equals, exactly. Book.get price. There we go. And let's reload it. Will it work? Yes, actual data from the actual file. And then when I click on Weapon Shop Zavisha, oops, it's Harry Potter again. Why not? I haven't done the second page yet. So on the second page, this is the real interesting one. I'm going to use the same bean again. So I'll copy that use bean and go to my second page to view a particular book. And I'm going to paste that use bean here because I want to use the same bean. But here's the tricky bit. How do I know which book to display? I have to look at the URL parameter. See up here, there is, if I copy and paste that, the URL that I clicked on looks like this. And in the URL, I passed the ID of the book. So on the next page, I can actually get that URL parameter. This is like the get method. On the next page, on this page, I can actually write some Java code here, and I can go and get the ID. How do I do it? Request dot get parameter, and what's the name of the parameter? ID. Right, is this correct? It's almost correct, but not quite, because get parameter always returns a string, doesn't it? And this is an int variable, so I need to convert that string into an integer using integer.parseInt, and that string will be converted into an integer. Done. Once I've got the integer, I'm going to use my bean, my bookapp bean, to, and in particular, this particular method here, to get that particular book that has that ID. That's where this useful method comes in. So, back to here, I want to fetch the correct book from my bean. Which method do I want? Get book. Which ID? The ID that I just got from the URL parameter. Done. I now have figured out the actual book that I need, although I need to import that class, don't I? So, let's go and do an import here. Import equals com.ryanheiss.bookshop.star. Now that I've got the actual book that I want to display, then what do I put here? Book details 4, and then this part of the string I'm going to replace with book.getTitle. And then here, the same thing. And then here, almost the same thing, but get ID. And then here, the author, it's going to be, what is it?
Book.get.
Get author and price. It will be book.getPrice. And then here, it will be book.getStock. And then here for the actual synopsis, I want it to do this, book.getSynopsis. Okay? Now the thing is that in the XML file, I did not actually put the paragraph tags in. So for that to work correctly, I'm going to have to change my XML format here. And we're going to put them all at the beginning of every line. And also at the end of every line we'll have a slash para like this. Oops. Paste, 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 paste. And now one more. And paste, and paste, and paste, and paste. So let's go back to here, reload the whole thing, and view. It looks right. Oh, hang on. Is it not doing the paragraphs? Oh, I need to reload because I just edited the file and it's already loaded it. I need to trigger a reload. So I'm going to restart the server. It's going to cause it to unmarshal everything again. And now let's try again. So, click. No, it didn't work. Oh, okay. I'm going to ignore that error and let's go back. The question is, what will happen if I click on Weapon Shop Sedisha? Yes! Alright, and the last one, yes. Good. Alright, so that's it. Was that helpful?